Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. Each week, we are serving up motivation and inspiration to help you get weeknight dinner on the table, letting you recapture a little calm in the crazy. And now, your host, speaker, author, and married mother of four, Mariefiebach.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast, episode 115. I'm your host, Mariefiebach, and today we're going to talk about discovering base ingredients. Now, what are base ingredients? It's something that I've been twirling in my head ever since I fixed dinner a few nights ago. So I'm going to tell you about this dinner and then work into what base ingredients are and how they can make cooking in your home easier. I had planned for dinner to make chicken piccata. Chicken piccata is basically, in my house, boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I bread and pan fry, and then I serve with a sauce that is made out of capers and lemons and sometimes a splash of wine and a splash of chicken broth. I was telling my son that's what we were having for dinner. He goes, "Mom, that just doesn't sound good. Can you make chicken parmesan instead?" And I quickly calculated in my head, I don't have any shredded mozzarella in the house, and that would mean going to the grocery store. And I am not going to the grocery store before I fix dinner tonight. So no, I am not going to switch and make chicken parmesan. But when I went down to the kitchen and I saw in my cheese bin, I had a block of mozzarella cheese that wasn't shredded. And in my mind, I always use the pre-shredded mozzarella cheese for chicken parmesan, but I could just as easily shred a block of mozzarella cheese. No big deal. And I quick looked in the pantry. I had everything else I needed to make chicken parmesan. And so in an instant, I switched from making chicken piccata to chicken parmesan. Now, again, chicken parmesan is a boneless, skinless chicken breast that's breaded and pan fried. And then you add tomato sauce and Parmesan cheese and a little bit of mozzarella cheese over the top, and you bake it a little bit. The recipes are not that different, but when you see the final dishes, they look very, very different. And as I was making this chicken parmesan, my brain started to twirl, and I started to think, okay, what else do I have in the house? What else could I make for dinner tonight where I changed my idea in an instant? And I started to think, well, I could make chicken noodle bowls and I could make chicken fried rice. And I, in my head, had this list of like 12 or 15 different meals that I could have made with the same base ingredients that I had in my house that night for dinner. And that's part of what makes getting dinner on the table in my home a little bit easier, because I have this base of ingredients that I keep in my house all the time, with flavors that my family prefers. Some of these base ingredients in my house, I definitely always have beef in my freezer because I get that from my local farmer. I usually have chicken breasts in my freezer. I keep canned tomatoes and pasta and frozen veggies and garlic. The flavors they like are Italian seasoning and cumin and some soy sauce and some hot pepper flakes. And I always have lemons. But what are the base ingredients that you keep in your house for the flavors that your family likes? If you notice on my list of base ingredients, there was not any dairy because I have one kid that does better when they don't eat dairy. But your base ingredients might have some Parmesan cheese, or it might have some sour cream, or it might have some cheddar cheese. I want you to start thinking about the base ingredients that you have that you can use in multiple ways when you are making dinner. One base component that I think about is starches, because, you know, the traditional meat in a three, there's usually meat and a side dish and some type of a starch. Most dinners, especially when you're feeding teenagers, have some kind of starch to round out the meal. My friend Diane and then Kendra the lazy genius, they always have rice in their house, and they buy rice in giant bags because their husbands were raised eating rice at almost every meal. My friend Anne always has potatoes. I will never forget one time I was having dinner with my husband and Anne and her husband, Bill, and Bill said, "You always have to have potatoes at dinner." And I said, always have to have potatoes? He goes, oh yeah, dinner isn't dinner without potatoes. And I said, well, what about lasagna? And he goes, you can have fried potatoes with lasagna. Well, Bill was one of many children who grew up on a farm, and I'm sure potatoes were a great way to feed all of these children and stretch the more expensive parts of the meal with something that is less expensive. And so dinner isn't dinner unless there's potatoes in their home. Every family has their base and their things that they are used to. One critical base in my family is salads. I've said before that my children are not huge fans of cooked vegetables. I'm working on it. But we start every meal off with a lettuce salad. And I mean 7 days a week. We always have a lettuce salad before we eat our entree. In my house, lettuce salad and the ingredients to make a lettuce salad are a base that we always have in our home. And we can adapt. Sometimes I have different ingredients on those salads. Sometimes that salad becomes the entree because I add croutons and grilled chicken, and we have chicken Caesar salad for dinner. But that base of the salad is always there, and I can adapt it. Think about the proteins and the starches and the base complementary ingredients that you keep in your house. Do you keep canned tomatoes? Do you keep pasta in your house? Do you have marinades or salad dressings? Maybe you've got soy sauce or vinegar. Each family has different flavors that they are drawn to, but there is usually kind of a basic toolbox of ingredients that they can draw from to make all sorts of different meals. Let me tell you how you can add variety to your family meals by just tweaking a few small things from those base ingredients. If you are looking at flavors that are traditionally Mediterranean, you're going to think of oregano and lemon. When you move to Tex-Mex, you're thinking oregano, cumin, and lime. Then you start moving over to Indian flavors and you're thinking cumin and coriander. Now the leap from Mediterranean flavors to Indian flavors seems a little bit bigger, but really you're just changing out a few of those small spices. You think about rice versus potatoes versus pasta versus rice noodles. A lot of these different base ingredients can be changed in and out and used in different ways to add variety to your family meals. But when you strip it down to the very basic ingredients, most of these flavors are not far from each other. So the night that I made chicken parmesan, I could have just as easily made chicken tikka masala with ingredients that I had in the house by tweaking the jar of spaghetti sauce with a can of tomatoes and a can of coconut milk, which I happen to have in my house anyway. Coconut milk is not something that everybody has in their house, but for me, it's kind of a base ingredient and I usually have it around. So what are the things that you keep around that you can use to adjust and adapt the recipes that you already have to get some different flavors and add some variety to your home? Once you start recognizing that you have kind of a base of flavors and a base of ingredients that your family is eating from most of the time, it creates rhythm and stability in your kitchen. Now, sometimes that rhythm and stability can feel like you're stuck in a rut. How many of us kind of get tired of the same foods over and over again? It's happened in my home. I would bet that it happens in your home. But rather than trying to throw everything out and start with a whole new way of eating, start looking at where you can make small leaps to new flavors and new ingredients that still have a piece of the familiar. When you are trying to expand your family's palate and are trying new flavors and new ingredients, you want to always have at least one thing that is part of that familiar base. So perhaps the protein and the way you cook the protein is the thing that is familiar. So you have boneless, skinless chicken breasts that are cut into 1-inch chunks. That is the familiar. You have some type of a tomato sauce. And maybe in the past you used a tomato sauce with Italian seasoning. But this time you're going to add the tomato sauce and the can of coconut milk. And you're going to add some of those Indian spices like cumin and coriander and garam masala. you're not making a huge leap from Italian food to Indian food. You're just changing a few of the things that you're adding to those bases, and it's going to help you add variety to your life. Let me give you an example. Bieroks are kind of a traditional Midwestern dish. If you are not from the Midwest, you may not know what a bierok is. Some people call them runzas. It is ground beef, cabbage, and onion with salt and pepper that is wrapped in a bread dough and baked in like a pocket. And they're really yummy. Now, the leap from bieroks or runzas to egg roll in a bowl sounds like a big leap. But let's talk about the ingredients. If you're looking at an egg roll in a bowl, my recipe has ground turkey and cabbage and soy sauce, ginger, and garlic. The base is still a ground meat and a cabbage, and you're just changing some of the outside players. It is not a huge leap to go from bieroks to egg roll in a bowl. And so as you are adding variety, start looking at those things that are the familiar to your family, and they will be less likely to complain about new flavors or new textures if you have something that is familiar. It's the new year, and everyone is kind of wanting a new start, wanting a fresh take in their kitchen. And as you start adding new foods to your family, I want you to think about the base ingredients that your family likes. And as you try new foods, look at how those foods are close to those bases that you already have. It's kind of a meal matrix per se, where my chicken breast could be chicken parmesan, could be chicken piccata, could be chicken noodle bowls, or my ground turkey could go into bieroks. It could go into egg roll in a bowl. It could go into turkey sausage that goes into a breakfast bake. When you start getting a rhythm of base ingredients that work in your home, it's going to help you as you grocery shop. It's going to help you as you meal plan, and it's going to make feeding your family a little bit easier. I would love to hear about what type of base ingredients you have and ways that you have found to make small tweaks that make a big difference in the final outcome of the dish. Join me in the Feed Your Family Tonight Facebook group, and we will talk about what your base ingredients are over there. For now, friends, I hope that you are doing well, and I can't wait to hear from you soon. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Feed Your Family Tonight podcast with your host, Mariefiebach. If you like the show and want to know more, please visit feedyourfamilytonight.com. And if you'd like to help support the show, please leave a rating or review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. It helps spread the word that you can feed your family tonight.